from the BBC World Service in association with ABC and All India Radio. This is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Alison Mitchell in London and I've been exploring more of the outdoors since our last show. I've been cycling around the Olympic rowing lake in Dorney near Eton, all those sorts of things between duties with the Cricket Writers Club. We've been trying to find and think of ways to ensure that all domestic cricket can be covered by eyewitness reporters next season, because budget cuts due to COVID is threatening that sense of reporting matches live from the grounds. So that's going on. We've got our end of season awards coming up too imminently, and I've been trying to catch various IPL games as well. Lots going on.
Hi, it's Jim Maxwell for the ABC in Sydney, where the local competition is up and running and has been for a while, as against Victoria, where there's no cricket being played. There's the hope that it will be played and that we will have not only Sheffield Shield, which is taking place in Adelaide, but the Boxing Day Test match and an Indian tour. But it's not actually official at the moment. So let's hope that the pandemic doesn't sprout wings again. Otherwise, we could be in trouble. So the world of uncertainty continues, but we live with hope that it's going to happen.
We're all holding our breath about the India tour to Australia, Jim. This is Charu Sharma from Bangalore once again for All India Radio. I'm back home after a series of flights within India because I'm setting a major golf tournament for clubs in India, and that means a lot of traveling. So it's been all right, actually. I thought it could be pretty inconvenient, but although it's a little eerie to wearing that PE kit or whatever, the smock and the shield and everything else, but I think the protocols are in place and we have to get past it, don't we? Cricket-wise, though, all eyes still on the IPL, which continues to take centre stage.
Yep, some high-class cricket, that's for sure. Well, our first guest this week will be casting some pretty envious glances in both of your directions, because I'm sure he's desperate for some cricketing action after several months of frustration due to COVID-19. The Sri Lankan men's team have had multiple series postponed now against England, India, South Africa and Bangladesh, all due to the pandemic. And I reckon that is leaving their head coach, Mickey Arthur, a little bit like a coiled spring. Mickey, welcome to Stumped. Is that an accurate description?
That is an absolute understatement, Ali. It is. We are incredibly frustrated here, but it's so nice to hear you guys talk, and it's so nice to have cricket going. So the IPL keeps me busy. Our guys have been training. We just seem to train and train and train. And it's hard to keep the intensities going when there isn't an end goal of a series coming up. But our players have been so mature. They've been incredible with the way they've gone about it and how they've handled the pandemic. And we cherry ripe, as I always say to the board. We're the best dressed cricket team with no party to go to.
Well, we have to get some lights on and get some music going, that's for sure. I mean, you were on the brink, weren't you? You're in Colombo at the moment where the team are training. You were on the brink of that test series against England when the pandemic took hold back in March. I mean, what have the last 6 months been like for you?
Well, it started quite tough, because once England sort of went away, the pandemic sort of struck, and I think the rest of the world, everybody started taking it very, very seriously then. And I live in the Taj Samudra Hotel. I was confined to my room. Luckily, they kept the gym and the pool open, so I could go and have a swim and do some gym work in the mornings. But other than that, it was 2 months of just complete and total lockdown. After that, we started with some residential camps. We got our bowlers in first. We needed to get their loads up. We needed to get their sort of fitness levels up. We needed to get them bowling again. So we started a residential camp with our bowlers. That then progressed into our batsmen, and then it progressed into full scale into squad games and a full scale 3-day domestic competition. So our boys had played a lot of cricket, and then obviously we were really excited about the Bangladesh tour, and unfortunately that just didn't quite get over the line. But hopefully we play some cricket very soon.
Yeah, you mentioned Bangladesh. I mean, they expressed their frustration at the 2-week quarantine arrangement that would have been enforced. So in a hotel with no provision for team training. So no sense of training quarantining in a training bubble, if you like. And England, who are due to be touring in the new year, have raised concerns over that as well. I mean, I think we've got a gauge of a bit of your frustration there. Is there any sense that the Sri Lankan authorities might become more flexible over that?
Oh, look, let's hope so. I don't think there's any way you can quarantine an international team I know we certainly wouldn't do it. For 2 weeks in your own room. Yes, they can bubble. I think both teams are really happy to bubble. They just want the ability to be able to train and practice, which I think is probably right. But it's so important for us now to play cricket, and I think it is for everybody. Financially, it's going to be the boards are taking massive strain around the world, and we need it. We need cricket. Cricket needs to get up and running again. The public wants it, and I'm very much aware of the bigger picture that's going on. People are losing lives. People are losing their jobs all over the world. Cricket is fundamentally a long way behind all that. I'm talking just from a perception of the job I'm in, and we need to get that cricket up and running again.
Now, Mickey, you've had a number of coaching jobs, and it hasn't always been comfortable in your relationship with the administration. So how are you fitting in with Sri Lanka? And do you feel you've got a long-term go at this job, unlike perhaps Pakistan, where you did so well until the World Cup?
Yeah, Jim. Look, I think so. I'm very realistic about the job and the role we're in. It very rarely doesn't end in tears, and I understand all that. I just want to always do it my way, and so when I leave, there's no regrets in terms of if it fails, it fails, but it fails doing it your way, and I think that is just so important. There's one thing I can say is that I don't think you've ever coached until you've coached in the subcontinent, just from a sense of emotion, chaos, color. No, it's an incredible place to be. So yeah, very fortunate, and I'm hoping that this one will last a period of time as well.
Mickey, after Sri Lanka won the 1996 World Cup, that was a massive shot in the arm for the island nation. And, they were threatened to become a world force. Now, you've answered some of the questions, but I would still like to know through you that somehow, somewhere, there's this big drought. And no big stars have come out much later. The big series seem to be missing, especially outside of Sri Lanka. Is something holding Sri Lanka back from regaining that exalted status?
I think what we've tried to create here is, and it needs to be done in the subcontinent, is just to create that environment that's structured, that's organized, an environment where players feel confident in the selection process. Because if they don't feel confident in the selection process, you never, ever get that total team buy-in that any good side has. So we've tried to create all that over the last couple of months, and we've succeeded to some point. The proof of the pudding is going to be obviously in the performances. If you can get that team going in one direction, then you can achieve whatever you set out to do.
Mickey, it's been great to speak to you. Make sure you keep using that gym in the hotel, but let's hope you get outdoors with the players. That's what we want to see.
The next time you see me, Ali, I'll be ripped.
Go well, Mickey, and yeah, let's hope that these tours can happen very soon. Mickey Arthur, head coach of the Sri Lankan men's team.
From the BBC World Service, this is Stumped on All India Radio.
Next on Stumped, it's perhaps no surprise that the avalanche of sixes by AB de Villiers in the IPL this week came at the Sharjah cricket stadium. It's a venue that has long been famous for its short boundaries and high-scoring contests. So here at Stumped Towers, we thought it'd be an appropriate moment to look back at the most famous Sharjah six of them all. Oh, the crowd's so loud you can barely hear the commentator. But yes, Miandad the Great, that was Javed Miandad hitting a six for Pakistan against India off the final ball of the match to win the Austral-Asia Cup in Sharjah in 1986. Well, joining us now to look back at that most famous of cricketing moments is Kamran Abassi, the executive editor of the British Medical Journal and self-confessed Pakistan cricket nut. So why are we getting a medical academic on to talk about this? Well, back in 2004, Kamran co-authored a paper which showed through statistics how Miandad 6 carried lasting repercussions for the cricketing fortunes of both nations. Kamran, welcome to Stump. It's been a while since we've spoken.
Yes, hello. Good to speak to you. I'm teary listening to that commentary.
Well, it's amazing, isn't it?
Incredible.
Well, look, let's come to the paper that you wrote in a moment. But yeah, first just give us some more context around that match and that incredible finale.
So the fact that it went to the last over, to the last ball, I think it just kind of built the excitement to an unparalleled level. And we'd not seen anything like that before in India-Pakistan games. So it was a wonderful moment. Nobody expected Pakistan to win. I mean, let's be clear. It all seemed like India were winning the match right from the beginning, almost the last ball. But somehow, Miandad pulled it out of the bag.
So, Kamran, it was several years later when you decided to look into the legacy of that victory and the Miandad 6. So what was it that you found?
Okay, so, that was 1986, and it was a huge moment for everybody in South Asia. But that 6 is still a massive deal. It's in our heads, it's in our psyche. We're all thinking about it, we're all talking about it. And there's a perception that Pakistan generally beat India, especially in one-day cricket. And the perception is that 6 had something to do with it. And there was that impact, both in Pakistan and in India, a positive one for Pakistan, a negative one in terms of psychology, probably for Indian players. So we thought, well, this is a perception. Let's analyse this. And we were at the BMJ putting together a special issue for South Asia. And I thought, well, we can't have this without not having cricket in it. And so I got together with a methodologist, a guy called Khalid Khan, and we analysed 50 years of cricket matches between the two countries. We looked at the results. We took in factors such as who won the toss, who batted first, where the match was played. And we analysed whether or not that match was a reference point, a turning point in the fortunes of the two teams. And our analysis, believe it or not, and this was peer-reviewed, remarkably published in the BMJ, though I hasten to say I did not make the decision. That was colleagues who decided to do that. But it showed remarkably that from that point onwards, Pakistan's performance absolutely excelled, and it was a turning point, and they became much more dominant over India. And this is looking at results over a 50-year period, so it's absolutely fascinating. If you ever get a chance to see the chart, you just look at the graph, and from that point onwards, Pakistan's success rate just takes off. So it was a remarkable thing to show, and at the time, 18 years later, it was still in everybody's heads. We were still all talking about it. And the question was, how were India going to wrench that, overcome that? And how are they going to wrench the psychological advantage back from Pakistan? And potentially that happened. Yeah,
I was about to say.
That did happen. Yeah.
Are we talking about 2003 here? Because if we are, I want to play a bit of commentary.
Okay,
so let's say Pakistan and that rivalry with India were dominant between 86 and 2003. And then there was this iconic moment.
And he goes after that one, and it's 6. Just using the pace of the bowler. But there was no half measures there from Tendulkar.
Okay, so this was the little master himself, Sachin Tendulkar, crashing a 6 off Shoaib Akhtar, the Pakistan fast bowler, at the 2003 World Cup. So why was that such a big moment, Kamran?
Pakistan are they're in a decline. They've got great players, Wasim Akram, Waqar Younis, etc. But they're coming towards the end of their careers. They've got Shoaib Akhtar, who's become a one-trick pony, and his main ambition is to be the fastest bowler in the world ever. And so he's bowled the 100-mile-an-hour delivery at Nick Knight during that World Cup. And so India are now facing a score of 270 odd to win a World Cup match. And India have a very good record against Pakistan in World Cups. Pakistan never beaten them in a World Cup. But having said that, that's still a big total at that time. And you're thinking, with that bowling, are India really going to do this? And Sachin, square cut, Shoaib Akhtar, bowling, high 90s, over backward point for 6. And the psychological damage potentially of that affects that particular match. And India go on and win it at a canter. And then the question then is, was that a tipping point? And my hypothesis is that it probably is a tipping point, because since around that time, India's record against Pakistan has been much better. So it's a game of kind of switching psychological pressure from one country to the other. And I think that's when India wrenched it back, but somebody needs to prove it.
Yeah, moments in time, hey? I mean, Charu, I remember, when you were watching that moment, which I'm sure you were, did you remember having any sense of thinking, whoa, like, this could be a game changer?
I must confess, though, that as Kamran said, India have always done very well against Pakistan in World Cup matches, so there's that history. And I think that one moment, that six, was probably much more of an individual bragging right between the fastest bowler in the world and the best batsman in the world. Yes, Indian fans remember it very, fondly, saying, wow, do you remember that Sachin six of Shoaib? But it wasn't the final of an event. It wasn't the final ball. So I would dare suggest that it didn't quite have the same impact, maybe, that Miandad six had, because that was a match-winning six of a nearly impossible situation. But the Sachin six was just magnificent. Kamran, I beg your pardon. I haven't done the volume of research you have.
Well,
maybe it wasn't.
John, let me come back. I think in that 2003 game, within the first 10 overs, India had won the match. Simply because Sachin, he scored so quickly, so rapidly. The game was almost done. Okay, well, let's see. Well, we need to do the analysis. I'm going to put my money on it. I think that six, that moment, that tournament was a tipping point. I think it changed things.
Kamran, thank you so much for joining us on Stump. Really great to speak to you again.
Thank you so much.
From the BBC World Service, this is Stumped on All India Radio.
Well, that's it for this week's Stumped here on All India Radio. Thanks to my co-hosts, Jim Maxwell and Charu Sharma, and to you for listening. You can stay in touch with us on Twitter. We're at BBCWS Sport, using the hashtag BBC Stumped. We'll be back next week with more news, guests and discussion. Until then, bye-bye.
Stumped is a BBC sport production for the BBC World Service, in association with the Australian Broadcasting Corporation and All India Radio.